Hi, this is Eric Guido with Vinous. I am currently in the Willamette Valley at the Soder Vineyards. These are Chardonnay vineyards on an absolutely perfect spring day here. The weather in Oregon is quite undependable. You literally can see the drastic diurnal shifts from day to day as you will be out in a field like this at 70 degrees in beautiful sunlight and then wake up the next morning to 42 degrees coming out the door. I'm here mostly looking at the 2022 vintage, which is a very complicated and challenging year. There are certainly some absolutely amazing wines, but the message is definitely to look at the producer before the vintage when it comes to 2022. In 2022, many producers will tell you that this was a cooler year. In reality, it was actually an extremely warm summer, which was certainly one of the challenges. But the biggest challenge took place earlier in the season when incredibly cool temperatures and a devastating frost set into the region. Vineyards that were below 300 meters, valley floor vineyards, were the most impacted by this frost. In many cases, producers lost large amounts of the production up front and had to depend on secondary buds to end up with the fruit that created the wines for this vintage. Flowering for the year ended up taking place extremely late, also due to those cool conditions. In many cases, late June, some would even say into early July. And that led into that incredibly warm summer, which luckily allowed the vines to catch up, and then went into a fall season that cooled down and many people say was the savior of the 2022 vintage. However, there were also rains that took place near harvest, and producers will either have picked before the rains or after the rains. So you can imagine that in a vintage like this, you have a lot of variability when you're tasting the wines. I find that there are very distinct, I would say 3 very distinct versions of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay that I'm tasting here. You have either the ones that are heavily extracted, which when compounded with a large amount of oak can be rich to a point of almost too much to bear. You have those that come across as diluted. Now, this could be a combination of things. This could be that the winemaker had to depend on those secondary buds, which would have been much more productive, making extremely large clusters and giving them a large amount of yields than they larger than they expected. In that case, if they didn't cut back, that might have explained some of the sense of dilution, or it could have had something to do with the rain and when they ended up picking the fruit. And then there is another style, and that style is of racy, vividly fruit-focused, yet balanced, wines that are already showing really well right out of the gate, and I expect them to continue showing well. They may not be wines that are going to necessarily make the old bones we talk about, but I certainly can see them excelling over the medium term. In the end, as I said, this is a vintage where we should be looking to the producer before the vintage year. And I think that we're going to find a lot of great things to like here. I've been here for about a week and a half. So far, I've tasted somewhere around 800 wines, visited somewhere around 30 different estates. And I can tell you, this is certainly not a vintage to overlook. It's just one to be extremely careful and picky when it comes to where you're going to spend your dollars.